everyone. Welcome to our November Women IT Pros meetup. Today we have Lorelle Van Fossen, who is one of my favorite humans on earth, who I met in virtual reality. So it's one of the many reasons that I am totally in love with virtual reality. So she's going to talk about amazing things like educators in VR and everything that got her up to that point in her life, which I just can't wait to hear. Funny thing is, I actually spoke at Educators in VR talk on Tuesday about my life story. And so now I get Lorelle's life story. So this just ended up being the week to kind of swap stories here, which I think is just awesome. So during the call, feel free to type in the chat window here. Feel free to come off mute if there are appropriate times. We'll say, hey, anybody want to say anything? We do have a LinkedIn group. If you would like to join that, just go ahead and send a request over there. We're happy to have that be a place where people can continue the conversations. And in the meantime, some events that we have coming up here. Our Asia Pacific group out of Brisbane and Australia in general, they are meeting at noon on November 24th, which is our Thanksgiving, of course. But for us, it is the night before. It will be 6 p.m. Pacific time because daylight savings time. Sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 7, depending on where we are in the calendar years here. And then the next US event will be the day after Thanksgiving. So forget the Black Friday sales, grab your headset or your PC or Mac and come join us in Alt Space. And you can talk to Lorelle in avatar form, which is, it's weird because I feel like I know Lorelle best in avatar form better than I do in even though I've met her in real life. And we do list our events on Eventbrite, so feel free to follow us there. The second Saturday in December, we have our call lined up. It's an amazing woman who I met who worked at, Sun Microsystems, bunch of high tech stuff without ever having a tech degree. And now she's a gemologist up in Vancouver, Canada. And she just astounds me. So you really want to come in here. Lisa Ellsler's story is going to be amazing. So, we welcome you to come to any of the calls that you like. We are still looking for someone to start up again in Europe. Because our people who are running Women IT Pros Europe moved on to some other things, but always welcome. We do ask you if you can to fill out the survey at the end. I'll put a link in the chat window, or you can grab the QR code here. Definitely welcome your feedback so we know what we can do better. And I always put this disclaimer in. I do work for Microsoft, but I'm not speaking on behalf of Microsoft with any of this. This is open source, grassroots. Lorelle can say whoever she is speaking on behalf of, but she does not speak for Microsoft. We're just all here because we think it's really important to support women in all of these different facets of technology. So if you'd like to take a minute and give us your intro, I will throw this in the chat window here. And tell us who you are, what you're hoping to get out of this. You do not have to be an IT pro or a woman to be here. We welcome everybody. And if you are going to any events, I should probably change that now. Well, no, okay, 2022, 2023, I've got the right one there. So if there are any events that you know of that you think would be, really great for people to attend, I will always, put in a pitch for Educators in VR. After this, if you want to jump into Alt Space, Lorelle is going to be doing an event there. So I hope you'll give us a pitch for that, Lorelle, when it's your turn.
It's one of the most boring event. The one coming up is the most boring event in Alt Space. So I'll do a light pitch.
Oh,
yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
our next event is NaNoWriMo. Then anyway, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if people join later, they won't see your intro in the chat window. So you may want to put it in. Feel free to, blast it periodically. Does anyone want to come off mute and introduce themselves? I always make that available.
Hey, sure. Hey, all. Hey, Kathy.
Hi.
I am Sucheta. Such a pleasure to be part of this amazing group. I manage an endpoint management team in a large and fast-paced organization. I am passionate about what I do at work, and I love diving deep into Microsoft technologies, which are ever evolving. To share with you about an event I look forward to participate in, well, I'll be speaking at the Festive Tech Calendar in December.
Nice.
So looking forward to that.
Speaking on what in December?
It's the Festive Tech Calendar run by the amazing team at Cloud Family.
Okay.
Excellent.
Cool. We need more women speakers in technology. If you're feeling
Absolutely.
shy about speaking, come talk to me, talk to Lorelle, talk to Callahan. Callahan's a trainer from way back. I'm sure she can tell you all sorts of great training tips. Find women to support you in getting up there and opening your voice. We need you. Anyone else want to come off mute and say hi? All right, well, give us in the
Yay,
chat room.
Valerie! Hey, Valerie,
Valerie,
what's your username in AltSpace? Type that in. Let us know. So, because
Yeah.
it's so weird. It's everybody has their avatar name and as well as we like it when their names match who they are, but sometimes people don't. The one name I never recommend is what's the one that's your display name? Just the one that the one I always tease people. I said just whatever you do, don't pick sexy chick 69. That's just a bad all around bad display name. But some people come up with some creative ones, but that's not a good one.
Well, mine is Word Girl because I used to love the cartoon on PBS with our daughter. It was spelled properly, but
yeah, that'll work.
yeah, the hero from the Planet Lexicon.
Yeah, I love it. But we like meeting people that have real names, and so that's one of our fun things we like doing to get to know them.
It's my
All right, well, I'm
microphone
going to turn
on.
things over to
There.
Lorelle and got her LinkedIn up there. She is a digital evangelist, a keynote speaker, trainer, writer, consultant. I love that she has been in this industry in so many facets of it involving communication.
It's my
Because
mic on.
communication is one of the things that I think we just overlook as being such an important part of technology. It's important just for the
Hang on
the
a
bits and
second,
bytes.
Kathy. Somebody wants to talk. Yep, somebody's mic is on. Go for it.
Can anybody hear me? This is
Yes.
Callahan.
Hi, Callahan. I can hear you.
Hello there.
Hi.
I am not always the biggest fan of Teams. I have to be honest.
Mhm.
I hear you.
Teams says my mic is open when it's not, and I'm currently, according to Teams, I had to put my mic on mute to open my mic. Love Teams. So
Okay, well,
it's all
file a
good.
bug, please. File feedback.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But thank you, Lorelle, for noticing me. I
Yes.
I opened my mic just because everybody should have a voice, and I talk endlessly for a living. Ask Kathy. And I have been in IT since the 90s. I am a Microsoft certified trainer now for more than 20 years. And I am an IT professional. I am not a developer. And I think that IT is perfect for women in every way. We're very well suited for it. And I support any woman going into any aspect of IT. And I love AltSpace. That's all. That's all I have to say.
Excellent. Thanks, Callahan.
Okay, well,
it.
Callahan, you still need to get me dates because I want you doing one of these too. So
Yeah.
Well,
get back to me.
I think I might have time after December, but it's
Okay,
interesting
well,
that you've now put me on the spot, and I will choose a date, and
okay.
I will do this. I will possibly have to bail on this a little early, but I just could not miss it.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
I had to be here for this. So
I
I
love
will
it.
now open my mic so that I will go on mute.
All right. And file the bug, file feedback.
Okay, I
Oh,
will. I will.
technology.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
know.
Laurel, I am going to
Thanks,
turn
Kathy.
things over to you. You
Yeah.
have the mic.
Okay. I'm so glad to be here. And thanks, Callahan, for pushing in there. This is wonderful. I'm so thrilled to meet all of you. Um, I want to start with something that is uh, I'm just going to start because I wanted to do this a little differently than I normally do. And I want to tell you that when I was 12 years old, I was introduced to our family Bible, which was a rotting gold, still a little bit of gold foil encrusted, gigantic, big family Bible from I believe 1782, somewhere around there is when it was or 1760. I can't remember the date, but anyway, and it had been wrapped in plastic bags, and so that was not the way to store it. But anyway, I was finally old enough. I'd seen it in the cabinet for years, and I so desperately wanted to touch it. And it was like a mystery thing. At 12, I was able to finally be introduced to it. I was old enough to not damage it. Um, And I opened it up, and of course, the smells of old, ancient old book and old papers and things was just it was just wondrous to me. This was such an object of fascination to see the handwriting, all beautiful, go from gorgeous scripting down to these little cramped, things as our handwriting has de-evolved in time, and the names of all these people. And all I had were names and places. And I refer to it as the mind reading Bible, because it was set up with, here's a list of marriages. Here's a list of births. Here's a list of deaths. I don't know what kid belonged to what family because it didn't list parents. So my dad and I, we played games over the years with index cards, and when the sticky note came out, oh my God, I should have invested in it. We put up a big cardboard thing. We're trying to match all these names and all these things. But anyway, as we're opening this up and I'm flipping through the pages, a photograph falls out from the back. And my dad was startled with it, and I picked it up, and it was a little, we're talking about quarter size photograph. And it said, Howard's mother, Luella Pinder Morehouse, and her son. Howard was my grandfather. My grandfather was raised in an orphanage and in Portland, Oregon, and we believe that he never knew who his mother was. And I was suddenly holding a photograph with her name. And that changed my life. And I started, this is a long time ago. There was no internet. There was nothing like that. But I started trying to find out, who is this woman? And I was fascinated by her. And we made photocopies of her picture, and took pictures of it and things, of this thing. And I kept that with me, trying to find out, who is this woman? And as I started to dig into my own family history, as you know, what we find are names, dates, and places. Names, dates, and places. I don't know anything about who these people are. What do they do in these places at this time and these dates? And how did they live? And what did they go through? I don't know their story. And I became obsessed with story. But I had to find this woman. So the short story, which is actually a long story, 34 years later, I found her death certificate. And that gave me a different name. And it gave me a birth date. And I went, now I've got internet, I've got ancestry.com, I've got all these things. I can open up the world and I can find and I can find her story. That was just like my lifeblood all these years. Couldn't find her. And it took 3 years before I was at since then I had, in all those 30 some years, I'd become a genealogist and all the research. And that's my hobby. It's something I'm really passionate about. My husband says that I love playing with dead people. Yes. And what ended up, I'm at a genealogy conference and they're talking about the mistakes that are made in records. And somebody said, often people will get names messed up. They'll switch them. And I pulled it up and I switched her father's name that was listed as her father with her mother's name, and bingo, I found her. And it wasn't Luella, it was Lula, and I found her, and I was able to trace her except for the 5 years that my grandfather was hatched. I'm still looking for that. But I have traced every moment of her life in records that you would not even believe, because it was important for me to tell her story. Now, I talk about that because that was a life mission, to help people tell their story. Became a writer, became involved with the first, online journals, was like a miracle to me, because now people could share their story. And I have this vision that thousands of years ago, when archaeologists are digging into our history, they're going to find all these little bits and bytes and things, and they're going to go through and put together our lives. I lived in Israel for too long, and the Israel museum had the Dead Sea Scrolls. And everybody's into, oh yeah, there's Deuteronomy and there's this. And I'm going, yeah, that's plagiarism. Great. They copied it. Okay, great. They were able to copy it. Okay, love it. I don't give a crap about those. Sorry to be irreverent on that. What was important to me are the little bits and pieces that were the diaries of their lives, that said how they farmed, what their rituals were, what their times of prayer were, what they ate, had recipes on it. And these people that were invisible, that were in caves, living in these caves along the Sea of Galilee, not the Sea of Galilee, so down by the Dead Sea and down in there, they became visible to us. This non-existent tribe suddenly existed because these little tiny bits and pieces of parchment. And I see the same thing in the future. They're going to find those little bits of digital blogs and all that stuff that, yeah, it's boring. I mean, how many times can you take a picture of your bloody lunch? Come on. I'm so sick of everybody taking a picture of their breakfast, picture of their lunch. That's kind of died off, but that was a big thing for a while. But still, that's part of somebody's story. And as the technology has evolved and I've evolved with it, through developing online publishing and which became went from emails and newsletters and things, and then branching off into online journaling, blogging, web publishing, all the rest, ebooks, and so on and so forth. 3D, the metaverse, virtual reality, is a natural part of that process. So now not only can we tell someone's story, we can walk into it. And that's where the magic is. We can capture those moments. I spent yesterday in the Athens Agora marketplace that no longer exists in Greece. It's just a few little rocks. Yeah, Kathy knows it. And I was in the Odeon Theater, which was a acoustically perfect performance hall with a very tiny stage area, and people could hear way in the back, amazing things that's been duplicated by one of our world builders. Her name is Lita. She's a master world builder, and she's recreated the Athens Acropolis and the Agora and these other historical sites in Athens on a 1-to-1 scale reproduction. I can walk through the Acropolis in its heyday. It doesn't look like that now. And I can see what that looked like. And that's a different experience, to be able to walk through people's stories, to walk through that history. And that's part of the magic of all of this to me. And we need to preserve those things, but we need to create new. And it's all about the storytelling. And every time I work with students and clients and they're building worlds or they're setting up their classes, I go back to, what's the story? What's the narrative? Because when you take people into virtual reality, you're taking them on a journey. You're taking them on a story. How do you tell that story? How do you relate to that? Now, that applies, as you all know, to marketing and everything else that we do. I don't care if you're doing an agenda for a meeting or you're setting up a conference or whatever it is. It's about that journey. And VR now and the metaverse is a part of that. Educators in VR was founded in 2018 after I had been researching about teaching in VR for quite a while, and for about 2 or 3 years. And even longer, I'd been fascinated with it, but I was really diving in, go, what can I teach in here? And I met a lot of other teachers. And I met one teacher from Venezuela who was living in Colombia as a refugee in a refugee camp. And he had just managed to get a phone, a Samsung Oculus Gear phone VR headset, and it opened up a whole new world. He was teaching he took over as another refugee. He started taking over teaching the refugees and the children. And he saw these kids that are behind barbed wire had an opportunity to explore the world and see beyond. And he thought he was the only one in the world who knew about this. So he's telling me in broken English that how amazing this was, and I'm the only one. And I said, no, you're not. Me too. And both of us started crying. And I realized right then that what was happening is that we're educators were exploring all this like I was, but we weren't talking to each other. Same as what Kathy and her team has done with WomenITpros. We're not talking to each other. We're not making that connection. We're not making that collaboration. And I knew it had to happen. So I talked to some other teachers and we said, oh yeah, let's do something here in Altspace. Okay, great. What are we going to call it? I said, I don't know. Let's call it simple. What it is, Educators in VR. Bang, it was born. We now have over 4,000 members, and it's an international organization, and we're dedicated to educating and integrating immersive technologies into education. We have over 25 special interest groups that we call teams that cover everything from aviation and Microsoft Flight Simulator and flight training and things, all the way to medical and healthcare, learning languages, cultural heritage preservation, which is a big one for me, and diversity and equity. There's so many all these different groups. We also have a Spanish language one, a Chinese language group, and we're also starting a French one, and we're looking for more languages. Very exciting to bring these people together who think they're the only ones doing this. And when we started the Spanish team, that's what I heard. We had a meeting of 4 people represented the Spanish languages in Spain and Latin America and Mexico and stuff. And they said, well, no one's doing this around here. And I said, that's not true. Go ask. So they did. They just went to the biggest university and said, are you doing anything with VR? And they go, yeah, we just started some stuff. They go, great, talk to us. And found all these businesses and all these things because they didn't know to ask. People are doing amazing things here, and we need to talk about it. We need to share. We need to connect. We need to build those bridges and make those partnerships because we're all working on this thing that's coming at us. And the future is here. VR technology, virtual reality, virtual worlds, virtual technology and stuff has been around for over 20 some years, 25 years. It's now entering the next phase with the new headsets and the new technologies. And it's, the integration of that Kathy's working on with her teams and things are going with bringing avatars into teams and blending the mixed reality. Really exciting. But most importantly, Kathy and I know this. We both share this. We want to live in a holodeck. We're sick with the house business stuff. We want to live in a holodeck because we hate dusting and vacuuming. So please, any of you who are working on that tech, let's get that going fast so I can just push a button and change my whole bedroom around and decide, change seasons without getting the boxes out. But instant cleaning. Yes, we need that. But we are moving in that direction. And what is fascinating about the metaverse, as much as the technology is groundbreaking, and I want to talk about that with you all, because there are careers, your careers that you have right now are going to be shifting in that direction. It's going to be organic and it's going to be forced, but it's going to be huge and it's going to be really amazing. But know that what we're finding is that the more technological society has become, the more organic it's become. Best word I have. I knit. I love knitting. I'm not very good. I suck at knitting. I'm looking for a knitting group in Altspace. I've been saying that for like 7-8 years. I want somebody, I'm not going to do it. I got enough groups. But I love knitting and the textures and the feeling of it. We're going back to gardening. We're going back to, living in tiny homes and minimizing our life and cleaning things up and getting back into nature. We're exploring ancient recipes and making them come alive again. So even though we're moving into a more technologically advanced society, we're actually finding nature. We're finding that organic feel more, and we're working more and more towards balance. And that's really, really exciting to see that blend happen so that we can remember that past. We can enjoy our stories. And one of my dreams, I built the first museum at Altspace, and I'm still working on it because things keep happening, for family history. And I really live for the day that I can actually bring those photographs in a 3D aspect and with stereoscopy or something, and we can bring those in, and I can literally walk through my family tree and see those stories, hear those stories, feel those stories. So everything that I do with educators in VR and all of this metaverse boils down to story. Right, Kathy? I mean, that's what it is. It's all about story. So questions, because I can go in any direction. I would love to, and I'm one of the world's leading experts in all of this for education and immersive technology. I'm here. What do you now know my base story.
Well, I just want to know a little bit. So, you get through high school, you start going to what are you going to do? What was like you knew you wanted to tell stories, but what was kind of the pivot point that got you into doing it with technology?
The technology just evolved around me. I was taking apart computers. The first computers that came out, I was taking them apart, I built a 286. I had the older one. We had a Commodore, and I took it apart, and it was just part of the process. And okay, so there's a little dial back there. When I was 6 years old, I was hit by a truck, and quite badly, and I had traumatic brain injury. So I had memory issues and I had a terrible stuttering problem. And part of the problem was that my brain would think so fast and I couldn't get the words out. And I We were at a thrift shop. My mother, thrift shop expert. She's now quite wealthy, but it doesn't matter. We do the rounds of the thrift shops when we visit and stuff. She just loves it. And we were in a thrift shop when I was, I don't know, it was 8 or 9 years old, and found a record album that was Teach to Type on a record album. It taught touch typing, and it was 25 cents, and we were used to paying 5 cents for a record. And I was like, oh my God. So I begged her to get it, and it had never been played. Obviously, it's like one of those silly things. Anyway, got it. I put it on my little, kid record player, and I had my mom's old manual Olivetti typewriter. And I learned to touch type at like 9 years old because it helped me get my thoughts in order, and I was able to get from my head out into something that I could work with. And so that was that process, is that I couldn't, I had to learn how to not stutter and things, and work on that, and that helped that process. And so you so I chew up keyboards. These are I literally will chew through numbers. These are pads on here for quieting, but I will erase all the letters on a keyboard within minutes. Microsoft was actually doing one of their second ergonomic keyboard had laser cut. That lasted me the longer. Nobody else does that anymore. It's just ridiculous. So because I learned to when I type, it's a long stroke because I learned to hit. I'm doing, if anybody knows this, you were doing
manual.
And you have to grab the keys because they would jam and pull them towards
Yes.
you as you did. So that's how I learned to do it. Like 9 years old, I'm banging away. So I have a really long keystroke. And I wear out keyboards like crazy. But it's, that was part of that, getting that story out. And then as the technology, my mom had a real estate office, and she'd get new technology, the teletype, I'd fix it for her. So I grew, as the technology evolved, it just grew with me. It was just, and it wasn't something I sought out. It's like, there it is. Next one, next one, next one, next one. So I've had the earliest, greatest, bestest, latest from the very beginning. And I'm a techno whore. I just like, it's, we start talking like VR headsets, and I start going into, ooh, okay, it's my porn. I've got my Windows mixed reality is right here. And I'm like, no, anyway, it's just, some people live for cars. I live for just the tech. And so it's nothing special. Studied it in school long before anybody else was. And it just was a natural process. But it was all about capturing the story. It was all about preserving the story, getting the records, getting the data, whatever that was. And I didn't care if it took a crowbar and some elbow grease. I was going to use whatever was available to make that happen. So it was never anything special. It was just, organic, like, and every 2 years, 2 to 3 years, I buy new and keep going.
Yeah, sometimes faster.
Yeah, and it's, the technology still is not caught up with the demand and the dream that I have. We're still working on it. It has to. And, just like some of us dream of flying cars, I dream of being able to think and have it recorded. Well, cleaned up, censored on the process thereof. But the preservation of our story and the collaboration is just so absolutely important. And then giving it meaning by sharing it with others. We need to do that, and part of working with teaching schools and universities, colleges, businesses, and things to introduce them into VR. In those onboard training programs and things, we deal immediately with the things that get in people's way. Like, I'm not putting that on my face. Like, okay, then don't. I call 2D access. This is how I look most of the time because I'm in VR all the time. I'm sitting here in front of my computer in VR constantly. This is my day, except I'm just bundled up because it's freezing. And 2D is we call it our drug of choice because it's just you can slide right into VR and you don't need any special equipment until you're ready to make that decision. And then we'll take you all into the hardware and all the choices that are out there. But it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be complicated. And it needs to be an easy transition. So we love it. So, all right, I see Callahan says, which I just noticed here, the sense of being alone in discovering Altspace resonates. So she's the only one, a technical group of about 10,000 people seeing the value of it. So we're looking at, yeah, she also doesn't use the headset. She comes in on there, which is fine. Yeah, some people insist on the headset. I just, transition. We didn't start out on a bicycle. We had training wheels. Unfortunately, too many people, we need training wheels on cars, but that's a different discussion. But the biggest point that Callahan makes, you have to connect with people. And social VR is amazing. I realized about, I don't know, my third year in, that when I'd say, "How are you?" I wouldn't hear the word "fine." And it just kind of hit me. I was out and about someplace and I said, "Hi, how is to somebody in the real world?" And they said, "Fine." I went, "Fine. I haven't heard fine in a long time." And I realized in VR we don't say fine.
Mhm.
We say,
Yeah.
"Well, I'm a little blue today, but I'll get better." Or, "It's a tough day." Or, "I'm doing great and this just happened." And, "Oh, I just was here and I just did this." We're getting rid of the fine. And I like that. I like that because fine means nothing. And it's about the connections. It's about the people. It's and I love that people are more authentic in social VR. We get right down to it. We don't, we leave the fines along. But you need to collaborate and work with people. You need to find those connections to give you a reason to come back. And what's fun is when you start to connect with people, the socialization is fantastic. There are groups that will not only meet in Altspace, but then they'll make plans and go, "Have you played this game? Have you done this? Well, have you checked that out?" And then they'll go together to play those, in their headsets or whatever they're doing. And then they'll set up dates. They'll have game nights and things. And I love that. So events start a process, but then you start finding your peeps and you start rolling with it. So, but it's really important that we don't discourage people who are not using headsets, that we embrace people that come into GDD. Absolutely important. And then, the technology is going to improve. Trust me. Hopefully that helped, Callahan. Yay. All right. You want to read Leslie's question?
Sure. What methodology do you use to draft up storyboard ideas so you can share them for discussion and filter them through different concepts? Sharing initial concepts to get people on board can be so tricky.
It can be tricky. Now, there's two possibilities for this. So, first of all, to draft up storyboard ideas for myself and my own team, before, not with clients and customers. That's a different kind of thing, because we walk in prepared, and the whole idea of a storyboard and documents and things like that disappear in VR. We take people step by step through a process, and so it's more interactive. So the traditional whiteboarding and all that stuff is, I just don't, I try to I can't avoid slides, but we play around with those. And so um just as a side note, because we are in the National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, if you are a serious writer, I don't care if you're doing technical writing, because I'm a technical writer, fiction, scripts, whatever you want, check out Scrivener by literatureandlatte.com. Scrivener is a writing studio that is a game changer. There's lots of competition out there, but I love Scrivener. And I write up all my classes, all my trainings, all of my things, because it allows me to modularize my content. So I can put, section one here, storyboard point here, thing here, and I can move things around really quickly and easily. Unlike, and I'm not putting down Microsoft Word, but Microsoft Word, unless you're getting in master documents, which is a nightmare, is a I wish that would get easier. It's one of my longtime dreams, but it's linear. Everything is linear. So what'll happen is that I'll say, okay, this section on day 6 of the 8-week program, I need to move that up to day 4. So I'll select it, I'll cut it, I'll move it up, and the phone will ring. And I'm like, "Oh crap, I have to answer the phone." And then, "Oh no, now I have to give an answer to somebody else. Now I have to do." Okay, and then I'll go back to my document and go, "It looks right." And then that whole thing sitting on the clipboard is toast, because my brain is just gone. Or I'll forget where I wanted to put it, So that inability to modularize the content in a way that I can control it. You can do that in slides and things like. So imagine Scrivener is like PowerPoint for writers, where you can move the slides around and shift things around, but you can also thread them, connect them, and subdirectory them and things like that. so I use that to develop all my ideas and all the content things. Then that shifts into whatever form I need. If it needs to go into PDFs, it needs to go into, an LMS system, it needs to go the web page, whatever it is. But I want to talk about teaching in VR. Just like, you need to use the right tool for the right job. Coming in and staring at a slideshow, coming in and staring at a video in VR, why? If you're going to come in and watch a YouTube video, why bother with the VR part? Take that out. Just watch it. It's the interactivity that's most important. And I like watch parties. Altspace used to have a ton of watch parties. Every time there's a big storm, big election, big whatever, we had great watch parties, and I'd love to see those come back. But they were started by staff, and that activity, the events team needs to come back. But anyway, and we'd be watching a hurricane. If you had any kind of personal connection or just wanted to support your friends, or you knew people, someone who lived there, or you did live there, we would gather and we would talk while we were watching the news streaming in, and be worried and have great organic random conversations in around those. I love that because it's not about watching the video, it's about the interaction.
Yes.
It's about that socialization that is so critical. But we do events, it's about and we use slides and things, it's about that dialogue. And so we really restrict the teaching time to 12 to 25 minutes or so. And the rest has got to be, you got to talk. You got to talk to people. I really believe that the people in Altspace, Engage, whatever platform you're using, the people in the audience are often smarter than the people on the stage. And I want to talk to them. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to spark the conversations and make those things happen and learn from them, not just them from me. So that's a big different way of thinking about this. And then to break the cycle of slides and video, is we do what are called walking tours, where we'll actually move through a world where we have stations. We can set up images that are like slides that have some talking points, or a photograph or whatever it is, or a model, something that people can interact with or they can talk about or becomes the focus of the conversation. And what's fascinating about this is that people stay engaged longer. They feel like they're moving in the real world. They're not sitting still. Right now, you all are sitting on your butts. Few of you might be standing, but you feel like you're sitting still. You feel trapped. I see Kathy's in her corner. I'm in my own little corner, and we're in this little trapped place. But when you break that wall and you are now moving through what you're learning, you're moving through the experience, you're moving through the meeting, it's brilliant. It changes things dynamically. And that makes a huge difference. Oh, front porches. Absolutely. Yep. Front porches. Love front porches.
Okay, we got to read it though. So Callahan
Yep,
says, I'm creating a trick or treat space like that. They're front porches for stations. I agree. They have to have something they're literally moving towards as a goal. Yeah, it's the agency for me. The freedom to say, I'm going to talk to you. And okay, you're starting to talk about weird stuff. I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to get a virtual drink.
Yeah. Yes. And we need those. When Educators in VR produced one of the largest, we didn't set out to break records. We broke records. They told us afterwards we broke records. We had in February 2020, we hosted the first Educators in VR International Summit, and it was 6 24-hours. We made a lot of mistakes. 6 24-hour days, because in VR, I can talk about VR time. That's fascinating. There is no time zone in VR, but everybody lives in a time zone. So we had 24-hour nonstop events for 6 days. The metrics were still new. We think we have higher numbers, but they were able to count at least, we estimated at least 6,000 event attendees. We were on 5 different virtual platforms, on Altspace and Engage and a bunch of others. And we had over 150 presentations with over 75 speakers. And it was huge. It was a monster event. And COVID, suddenly the coronavirus, we wouldn't even call it COVID then, coronavirus started being talked about during the whole week leading up to it, and then that whole week. And then we had the closing event, monster closing event, Saturday night. And then my in the night, my power went out. We had a storm rip through, and my electricity didn't come back on Monday. When it came on, my inbox was full of people saying, okay, lockdown has now happened and our conference is now, we can't do it in the real world. Please help us. And we're like, not a conference company. We suddenly became a conference company. And that was, yeah, not doing that again. We specialize, I shouldn't say it that way. We specialize in educational conferences and educational things. I'm doing corporate West. I'm not going to do, commercial stuff. We'll give them some basics. We'll consult, but I ain't running those. But it was, we learned a lot, and we've now done, I don't know, we've now done 4, 5, we've done, I can't even count, 12, 15, 16, maybe 18 conferences, of which 4 plus another 4 or 5. Well, I have to correct that. So at least 4 monster conferences. And then this past year, we're doing, it's called the Univirtual Experience, because we bring in partners with educators in VR, and we do one a month. And with our teams, so each team is able to dive into their XR industry vertical and really dive into the aviation industry of what's happening with there, with language learning, with virtual schooling and remote learning, et cetera, medical and healthcare. Wow, that was a cool one. So we're doing one a month. But what we learned is these, what I call the drive-by moments, they're the hallway moments, are absolutely essential. And in VR, those are hard to structure for a lot of technical reasons, mostly because of audio. You need a big space to separate people so we're not talking over each other. When you're in a smaller space, it's kind of like trying to talk during a big frat party where you're just shouting at the top of your lungs to be heard with all the noise and the music and everybody talking at the top of their lungs. So you need to design a space that, which we're experts in, that has enough distance and enough ways until we can get some audio occlusion to help a lot to restrict the distance that sound travels. But those little hallway moments, those little drive-by moments, that's when business happens. That's when connections happen. That's when ideas come together. And you need to incorporate those, just like in the real world, into VR events. And it's quite the art form, as Kathy well knows. But it also applies to small, when you have a meeting and you have small group sessions, you also need to take that into consideration of how do we, meet, get the idea, go out and small group it, bring it back together and make that work within that virtual space in a safe and comfortable way, and have a whiteboard and have all the other bells and whistles and things that you need to capture those ideas. So it makes it more complex, but we can do it, and we're doing it. It's really exciting. Educators in VR produces over 800 VR events every year, paid and free, across multiple platforms. We're doing it. It's exciting. And I love the ideas.
And I really recommend their events. It is always top-notch programming. So, and just, really well structured, really well run, great environments, great content. So, it's like anything. I would have no hesitation about saying, yeah, go to an event, even if I don't know what it's called. It's going to be awesome.
It is. And I just want to tell you a few of the things that are coming up before we run out of time. My team is, I have an amazing team, and they're handling, our next event is happening in a few minutes, and they're already fighting over who's going to run it. So I love that. I just love that. So coming up on Living on Saturdays, our Chinese team, and I know this can be recorded. So right now this is November 11th, 2022. But our Chinese team is meeting, and it's a series of 2 meetups they're going to be doing in Mandarin. Meeting with Kay, who is an artist and a curator, and he produced a 2-week huge cross-platform art exhibit event in Chinese, and for over 9,000 people, all in VR as well as in the real world. It was a mix of everything, and he's going to be talking about how he did that and brought all these agencies and groups together. So we're hoping that the videos, we're going to get it translated, because I'm really excited to hear about that. The new Pico headset, big game changer. I am so excited about this headset. I cannot tell you, I've been waiting for years. It's disconnected from the Facebook ecosystem, which is really important for privacy and a lot of other stuff. because there's many countries in the world, especially in the EU, that will not recognize or will not allow the sale of that headset because of privacy. You can't buy it in Germany. Everybody gets it, but I'm not saying anything. But the Pico headset is disconnected from that ecosystem, which allows it to exist on any ecosystem. And it is a brilliant headset, and it is given Quest a run for its money. And I think it's going to be a really disruptive force. We have the team from the UK team from Pico. Pico Interactive is going to be coming to AltSpace on Tuesday, the 15th, to talk to us about the new headset and what's going on with it. And it's really exciting. It is about to be launched. They have all the marketing, they have all the stuff ready to go to launch it in the US. They're having trouble because of COVID to get enough people in place to make the launch in the United States. So COVID is still causing problems with that, but it's going to be in the US. Right now it's in Europe, and you can buy it there is a franchise that will allow you to buy one, but it is coming. Now the entry code. Oh,
I can
just
go
look
look
up
that up if you want me to.
Yeah, please. Yeah, just
Yeah.
it's just just look at the calendar.
Yeah, I'll go check out the channel.
You'll see the link and stuff on there. We also have our VR event moderator. If you are considering doing any kind of event, I don't care if it's a business event or otherwise, we have Tuesday is also our VR event moderation training, which we offer for free, a basic introduction on what you need to know to manage a public event. Private events are fine, but if you want to do a public one, it's still a good one if you do a private one. All right, then on Wednesdays, our aviation and flight simulator team meeting. We have our Holiday Worlds tour is coming up. Our virtual hardware team is going to be meeting also on Wednesday to talk about Pico and a bunch of other cool things. And then our VR coaching and personal development team is going to be having, which is great, looking at therapies and productivity and professionalism and whatnot, professional training and coaching, is doing VR for wellness and stress. Going to be great. And then we're doing also, we have nonstop stuff, but our how to research in VR presentation, if you are working with any research, white paper or other research, we talk about some of the basics you need to know about researching with and in VR. Our medical and healthcare team is doing a presentation. We have a privacy and the metaverse discussion coming up. All kinds of things coming up, including a bunch of holiday events happening. We also meet weekly in Engage, and we have special training programs that will, at the basic level and an intermediate level, to bring corporate companies and universities and colleges into Engage to understand how to create scenarios and meetings and interact with the Engage platform. And so you want to slap in the code for that too, Kathy?
Sorry, for which one?
In the event, she wanted the code, and so.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Get you there, but the code is also there too. Anyway, we have nonstop stuff going on to really help people understand how do you take the next step, and then once you're in here, what do you do? What do you do with this, and how do you make it be a fun, learning, collaborative environment, and embrace the technology. Oh, Knox 444. That's a great code.
Totally random.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and the other thing I'll do when my screen stops freaking out, I'll paste. There's AltSpace has channels, so you can also just go to the channel there, or you can go to the Educators in VR site, and I'll also include that, and I'll put that in the links.
Okay. All right. I can grab that too. The metaverse is our future. So I just want to say this about the careers. I'm doing a presentation for the New York schools coming up in December, and it is so exciting to look at the career potential in there. And so I've been digging back in. I do this all the time, but the architecture of the metaverse is going to need people is huge industry. How do we support this? Because we're going to be tapping into servers and internet and access at high levels. Accessibility. We have to have universal internet access, without a doubt. We need to get that. It needs to be like a telephone. We need to have the internet really be affordable, to have it be there just for everywhere. It's just, I have lived for over 15 years with what I call crap for net, and on which Kathy knows is dial up. I was on dial up to ADSL until just this year. And because even though I live where I can throw a rock and hit Nike and I can hit Intel and whatnot, I'm in an internet shadow where I live, and we have to make sure that everyone has access. It's just absolutely, and we need that infrastructure, right there for education and otherwise. And COVID taught us we got to have that. So we need people working in those industries really lifting this up. We also need security and compliance, ethics, laws, rules. Who's going to police the internet? This is huge. We have a metaverse ethics team that covers these topics, and it is absolutely fascinating when you start diving in. What happens if somebody's killed in the metaverse? Well, who is the agency that covers it? What if you want to report a crime? Where do you go? And then we have education. We have the apps, the development, the design, the user experience. The web is just morphing. In the future, it was a big deal when we went from email to visiting a website. Well, now you're going to be walking into that same website to get your information. Instead of clicking a button, you're going to pick something up and look at it. And that ability to then blend into AR. Already we're using IKEA and Amazon and stuff to put that couch right in our living room, or we're putting the toaster right on our kitchen counter so we can see what it looks like. And so I think that's where we're going, and we need the industries, we need the education, we need to be training, we need to make this happen, and you are all a part of it. Every one of you is going to touch the metaverse.
That's great. And I think what I want to do is let's go ahead and close on that note here. We can stop the recording, but we still have a couple of minutes, and I know you have an event to rush off to, but it'll give people, if they don't want to, worry about coming off in the recording, we can still chat for a little bit here. So
All right.
Come live to the second one in December, second Friday in December. Come to our meetup the day after Thanksgiving, Friday in AltSpace. Come hang out with us. Just wander around and chat in VR, and check out the Asia Pacific Women IT Pros on Thanksgiving Eve.
Yay!
So, Lorelle, thank you so much for joining us. Such a delight to get to talk with you always. It just highlights my week. And twice this week we get to hang out. This was
It's
awesome.
the best. It's the best.
It's the best.
It's the best. And thank you for what you're doing to change so many lives. Seriously. It is a beautiful thing. Women IT Pros, I've been a fan for ages. I am absolutely thrilled with what you're doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, so I will stop the recording if it will actually let me do that. Come on. Always that awkward. My computer is being extra slow today. There we go. Stop recording.
My team is having a fun right now. They're having a great time on Discord right now. They're going, who's going to control the slides? And they're calling it. It's going to be an alt space slide smackdown. So I'm okay with letting them